Welcome to the Visioning Workshop for West Rancho Dominguez, Victoria. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to take a moment to let people settle in, and then we will get started. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the project website, which we will share with you in a future slide. Bienvenido al taller de visión para West Rancho Dominguez, Victoria. Gracias por acompañarnos. Vamos a tomarnos un momento para que la gente se acomode y luego comenzaremos. Tenga en cuenta que esta reunión se está grabando y estará disponible en el sitio web del proyecto, que compartiremos con usted en un momento. Welcome to the Visioning Workshop for West Rancho Dominguez, Victoria. Thank you for joining us today. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the project's website, which we will share with you in a future slide. Bienvenido al taller de visión para West Rancho Dominguez, Victoria. Gracias por acompañarnos. Tenga en cuenta que esta reunión se está grabando y estará disponible en el sitio web del proyecto, que compartiremos con usted en un momento. Okay, so let's get started. Language support is available. To listen to this presentation in Spanish, click the globe at the bottom of your screen. We have here today Marina Sorache Ferreiro providing Spanish translation. If you have any technical difficulties getting to the Spanish channel, please use the chat box to let us know. El soporte de idiomas está disponible. Para escuchar esta presentación en español, haga clic en el símbolo globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Hoy tenemos aquí Marina Sorache Ferreiro brindando traducción al español. Si tiene alguna dificultad técnica para acceder al canal en español, utilice el botón de chat para hacérnoslo saber. Before we get started, here are a few housekeeping items. Please note that everyone joining the meeting is muted by default. You may use the raise hand feature to talk. You can access the raise hand feature under the reaction selection menu, or you may use the chat box to submit questions as shown on the slide. Also, at the end of the workshop today, the county would like you to respond to a brief exit survey. So we will begin with some brief introductions. My name is Janet Rodriguez. I'm today's meeting facilitator and a member of the DUDEC consultant team, collaborating with the County of Los Angeles Regional Planning Department on this project. Also from DUDEC, we have here today Gaurav Srivastava. We have John Camp and James Rojas from Placeit, who will be leading an activity in a few moments. And from the County Regional Planning Department, we have Tina Fung and Christina Tran, who will be available to answer any questions at the end of our activity. So now that you know us, we would like to get to know you. We will begin a poll shortly asking what your relationship is with West Rancho Dominguez, Victoria. Do you live here, work here? Are you a business owner? The poll should be on your screen in a few moments. You should see it now. Great, thank you for participating and letting us know who you are. It's great to see people who live here, work here, and others who are just maybe curious about what's going on. And again, thank you for making time to be with us today. Okay, so now that we all know a little bit about each other, let's get started on a brief introduction on what the metro area plan is. The Metro Area Plan is being prepared by the Department of Regional Planning of the County of Los Angeles. Let us first set the planning area in a geographic context. This is a map of Los Angeles County. There are 88 incorporated cities in the county. These cities are individually responsible for planning and regulating development within their jurisdictions. However, not all areas in the county lie within these 88 cities. The areas that are not within the cities are referred to as unincorporated areas. Los Angeles County, via the Department of Regional Planning, is responsible for planning and regulating development in unincorporated areas. To effectively plan and regulate development in unincorporated areas across such a large geography, Los Angeles County adopted a planning framework in 2015. This identified 11 planning areas across the county. The Metro Area Plan is one of the 11 planning areas of Los Angeles County. Some of you may have participated in the introductory workshops on October 26th and 28th. If you did not get a chance to join and would like to learn more about the Metro Area Plan, you can view the recording on the project's website at planning.lacounty.gov/Metro Area Plan. It is available on this slide, and we will also include it in the chat box at a later time. A primary goal of the Metro Area Plan is to update existing land use policies to address community needs. To simplify and streamline zoning rules, it will aim to consolidate regulations that currently exist across multiple plans. In evaluating existing land use and zoning, the Metro Area Plan will prioritize issues that are central to the lives of community members. Foremost, it will utilize an environmental justice and equity lens to evaluate all recommendations, recognizing that the 7 communities have historically been disadvantaged via past planning decisions. Additionally, the plan will address the needs for affordable housing, analyze the suitability of new housing in proximity to transit stops, and carefully study potential residential displacement. It will also implement zoning recommendations from the county-wide housing element. With regards to transportation, the plan will focus on safety for bicyclists and pedestrians. The plan will also look at opportunities for economic development and new green spaces. This is a preliminary list of priorities, and again, you can view the recording on the project's website to learn more about the Metro Area Plan. Tonight's discussion and activities are centered around the West Rancho Dominguez Victoria neighborhood, which is one of the 7 neighborhoods included in the Metro Area Plan. West Rancho Dominguez Victoria is a community of about 22,000 residents located in the southeast of the metro area, adjacent to Compton and Gardena. Providing over 15,000 local jobs, it serves as an industrial hub for the metro area of Los Angeles. Irvin Magic Johnson Park is a major asset to the community. It has recently improved to address water quality, biodiversity, and provide a safe and sustainable recreational amenity. So before I turn it over to John Camp from Placeit, who will be leading tonight's activities, I just wanted to mention that at the end of our activity, we will have an opportunity for questions and open discussion where you can share your thoughts about your community. So with that, John, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Janet. It's great to be here. Thanks, everyone, for attending tonight. What we're going to do now is segue into an interactive activity where you're actually going to have a chance to build your creative ideas for your community. Next slide. So what we're going to start off with is people are going to use found objects to build their favorite childhood memory. Next slide. And a lot of people are probably wondering why we do this. We're at a community meeting. Why would we build our favorite childhood memory? But a lot of times within our childhood memories are our core values, things that really matter to us. And these things can really set the tone for the rest of the meeting and for the rest of the planning process. So we really want to know what matters to you, what your core values are. So you're going to have a chance to build those memories tonight. Next slide. And then after that, we'll share what we've built, and then we'll move on to the next model building activity where we'll build our ideal neighborhood. And so you'll have a chance to build the spaces and places that matter to you, and also your hopes and dreams for your neighborhood. Next slide. So when we say model building, I just want to make clear that we're not concerned about things like perfect scale, anything that has to do with perfection. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in your office or at home, in your apartment or in your room, you can use things like paper clips, pens, pencils, silverware, whatever you have lying around, you can use to build your models. So I just want to make that clear because sometimes people will ask, well, I'm in my office and I don't have everything I can use. The whole idea here is to use things that can represent your ideas, but not things that are an exact representation of those things. So for example, if your memory contains something like autumn leaves in it, just because you don't have an autumn leaf doesn't mean that you can't build the model. You could use some other object that you have lying around to represent fallen leaves from trees. If you aren't able to build a model, you could also draw. You could also type into the chat box your ideas, but we really want to encourage people to build models because it really helps us be as creative as possible. So I want to go through a couple samples of models just to give you a sense of what you could do. So this is a model that a past participant built of their favorite childhood memory, which was being in Mexico and learning to dance with her uncle and her cousins. And so all these different models in here represent family members and everyone learning how to dance. The next one is a memory of someone whose favorite childhood memory was of hanging out with her family and being outside. So all of these little objects here just represent different family members. Next slide. And then this is another person's favorite childhood memory, which was building a nativity scene or a nacimiento with her grandmother. Next slide. So just to recap, this is what we're going to be doing for the next portion of the workshop. You'll have about 5 to 7 minutes now to build your model of your favorite childhood memory. We will build one too, so you can see. So if you're kind of unsure of what to do, we'll keep our camera on and we'll build one. And then as far as sharing the models, you can take a picture of it and email it to me, and I'll put my email address I'll change my name here to my email address and I'll also put it into the chat box. Likewise, you could also just use the camera on your screen and just show us what you've built. If you end up deciding to draw, you can take a photo of that and send it to me, or same thing, you could just use your camera. And then the third option, you can also just type into the chat box what your favorite childhood memory is. But we're hoping that folks will want to do the model building exercise because we can just be so much more creative than we could otherwise if we just talk. So anyways, so we are going to move on to that. I will change my name to my email address, and then I'll put my email address into the chat. Okay. You can build yours. You
Build yours.
build mine last time.
They build yours.
I thought I built mine last time though.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you build yours.
Street
Oh, okay, go for it.
in East Los Angeles, where I grew up, and there were a lot of little houses on either side of the street. It was a dead end street, and at the end of it was a factory. That at 4 o'clock, all the cars would people would go home, but we'd play on the street, and then we had some street trees on the street because at that time the street was really narrow, and there was street trees on the parkways. But then the county widened the street and took all the trees away. So yeah, so these plants represent the street trees, and these little blocks represent the buildings, and these flat pieces represent the sidewalks.
Is this the factory?
Factory, yeah, the factory.
Okay.
At the end of it. There you go. We also had some street lights that we play under. They kick the can, so that was really fun. Having a light in the street at night.
So we'll take a couple more minutes to build and then we'll start sharing. And if you're ready, you can take a picture of what you built and then email it to me.
Sure.
This is the factory.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have.
Well, it's
We can
it's
write that down.
factory. Looks like I've got a couple that have come in so far. So Daria, thanks for sending yours. We will start sharing these in a sec. This is the street.
Yeah, or maybe not put it on there.
If we could move all the people and put this in.
Yeah.
First. Some backyard trees. All right, cool. So we're gonna start sharing. So I'm gonna pull up the first one that I received from Daria, and then you'll be able to share. So let me share my screen.
Wow.
I'm gonna just. So Daria, tell us, what did you end up, what is this? Why is this your favorite childhood memory? Can you move this?
Yeah.
So we can take-
Well, that's Disneyland in the early 60s.
Yeah, great. Wow. I remember that.
That's what it used to look like before all the corporate stuff moved in. And it was pleasant and it smelled like orange groves. So yeah, let's go back to that.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Did you go there with your family?
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
Was this a frequent trip that you guys would take?
What do we do? 2 or 3 times a year?
Yeah.
I think it was about 2 or 3 times a year. I mean, it was cheap back then, not like now.
Oh yeah, it's really cheap. That's great. Yeah, I remember driving out there and seeing all the orange groves.
Yep.
And all the like the little straight lines. Be fascinated by all the like orange grove lines.
That's right. Now there's 1 orange grove left.
But one tree left probably. Right? It's all been taken down. That's great. I remember that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
All right, I'm gonna pull up Jeffrey's. Give me 1 sec. All right, Jeffrey, what is this a model of?
when I was a kid, I used to live across the street from a big open grassy field. One of the post-it notes is supposed to be a baseball diamond. Another one is a soccer field. My friends and I would go up, ride bikes or ride skateboards through this green area all the way to the top of the hill where there was a big playground, and you could see it from my house because there was a big slide on top of, and it looked like a huge, I don't know, some kind of monument, but it was just a slide, and there was a playground there. And I was really young, and my parents trusted me and my friends to go up there, without adult supervision. So it was kind of a representation of some freedom and joy.
Enjoy it. That's awesome. Great. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I'm just paraphrasing when you guys are talking. I'm just paraphrasing what you said in the chat box, and then we'll revisit that in a sec. Awesome. So let's see, who else would like to share? I think it's just you two so far who've sent me something, but has someone built a model that they'd like to just show us by way of their camera on their computer? Oh, sounds like I got another one. All right. Just scratch. Oh, that's yours, James. That's how we'll share James's in a sec. I just want to make sure that everyone else has a chance to share. So anyone who built one who'd like to share just with their computer?
Robert, share yours again.
Hey, hello. Unfortunately, I'm at my office, so I don't have many tools. But I mean, from my childhood, I can just remember, like I shared with you in the other meeting, just being able to have like lots of programming at the local park and at my church, and lots of green space. And I feel like there was like less traffic, so there was more opportunities to kind of like play in the middle of the street and like do like football and basketball and just all types of activities, where now as it's not that safe and accessible, we kind of have to travel far to be able to have like that safety and comfort to be able to do those same things. But from the gist of it, that's my childhood. I played a lot of recreational basketball. I drawed and I painted a lot. I was really interested into architecture, so I like building things, whether it was with Legos or other blocks and stuff like that. And I like to draw and paint and calligraphy and old school Old English. So that's kind of the gist of my childhood.
Just typing this all down. Great. Awesome. Thank you, Robert. And let's see. James, do you want to share yours? All right, let me pull it up and you can share. Hold on a sec. All right, hold on. I just have to share the screen.
So
yeah, let me just,
So like Robert, my memory is of playing on the streets of East LA, right on Hendrick Street where I grew up, and at the end of the block was a factory. Every day at 4 o'clock, all the cars just leave the factory. And you go played on the street. The street was narrow. And, we negotiate with the cars, and we had street lights there. We could play all night long if we wanted to. And we had street trees, and everybody kind of met on the street. We had people from like Mexico, from all over the place on the street as kids. So the good way to really kind of acculturate to the urban life of East LA, who came on the street. And but it was really safe. I mean, we just like in front of our house playing on the street, and it wasn't that much traffic, and the cars were small, they weren't big like they are now. And there was nothing, there was a lot of empty, not a lot, there was a lot of like it wasn't a lot of cars in street parks, so you had a lot of connections to the to the street from the sidewalk. More space, a lot of space, yeah. And but now we go there. It's just the streets. Now the streets just packed with cars.
Yeah, I feel like that's all over LA County. No matter what city you're in, unincorporated or city of LA. It's just stacked with cars or homes or businesses or all of the above, right? I mean, we live in a metropolitan where it's really, really dense, and it's becoming more dense by the minute.
Yeah,
You know, as a foreseeable future, you think about like all of the schools with this charter, LAUSD, you know, the add-ons for community colleges. There's just so much, right? So it leaves very minimal space for kids, you know, and that's why like parks and recs, the parks, you know, those are essential to children's childhood, right? Because if they can't have access to being in the middle of the street and playing in summertime with all their friends, you know, the park is their next best bet.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Definitely. Well, yeah, thanks for that, Robert, and thanks, James, for sharing that. And it looks like I have one more, so I'm gonna pull this up. So give me a sec. Yeah, let me just share my screen. Daria, you have another one. Share with us. What is this?
Well, do we have any other Catholic schools in this area? We're both, my sister and I are from St. Albert, the Great Parish over here in West Rancho Dominguez. And this is not from our school or church right in the photo, but we used to be able to have a lot of the processions at key times of the year up and down. It went down the major streets like Compton Boulevard, Avalon, and Redondo Beach Boulevard. So it went all the way around the Delta, which you certainly can't do right now. But this was a tradition when we were younger. And of course, it goes back hundreds of years, where on key feast, you would have a procession up and down the street with the priest. Sometimes the bishop would come, and then you had all the altar boys, and then all the kids from the community would follow this, you know, whatever statue it was around that neighborhood. So this was another of our key childhood memories.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
Yeah, when I grew up in East LA, we'd have the Lady Guadalupe processions down Segundo Boulevard Boulevard. I grew up with my grandmother. I remember just like walking with all these people and having to go to the restroom. It was just really fun experience to walk with all these people, and they had all these sayings and banners and from all the different churches in the neighborhood. It was a really good way to bring people together, you know, on the streets, and look at it as kind of this really solidifying religious moment. You know, how can the streets be kind of way to bring all these different people together, you know, on this one cause. Yeah, it's really fun.
That's
Exactly.
great. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I wanted us to do now is just go back through. You can just pull up the chat box and you can see all the paraphrased versions of the models that people built and their memories. And I just wanted us to pull out some of the recurring themes of these memories. What do you guys see in here that's common amongst all the memories? And either you can just, you know, turn on your mic and tell us what the themes are that you see, or you can just type those into the chat box.
I definitely say that they were family oriented, that families felt like they could do these things together, and they brought the neighborhoods together or the communities together.
I'll type those in.
They were inexpensive activities.
Yep. Yeah, but yeah, these things kind of emphasize recreation and cultural similarities.
Great. Recreation.
Physical activity. And learn how to be connected to a place. I belong to these, as kids, we belong to these locations. It's our place.
Mm-hmm.
Great, yeah, Janet wrote safety on the streets. Being outside. I think every memory was of being outside. No one was inside. Well, a little bit, I guess. Well, Robert said going to some church functions and maybe some library functions, but a lot of them were being outside. I know freedom and exploration and independence. A lot of people talked about being able to roam freely in the streets and how they don't feel like kids can do that nowadays because there's so much traffic. So I guess I'd say fewer cars, less traffic. Great. All right. This is a great list. So we do this exercise where we pull out the recurring themes because we all come from different places. We're all from different backgrounds. We all have different memories. So at first glance, it can sometimes seem like we're all completely different. But then when you go through and pull out these recurring themes, you can really see that there's so much overlap, no matter where we're from and who we are. For example, in my case, if I had built my favorite childhood memory, it would have been playing out on the sidewalk and in the street as well. And that was really our world. And we felt safe and independent, and our parents weren't always watching us when we were out there. At least I don't remember them doing that. So, and that was in Minnesota. That wasn't even here in California. So,
and this also just illustrates, how nobody said I had a lot of toys, and therefore I was happy. These are just experiences, and I think these are how we understand the city, these emotional experiences, and that's what we kind of want to recreate in our cities. You want to recreate these good times we had as children, and that's our happy space. And how do we make the city become this kind of happy space again? And what kind of power do we have as adults now to really make this happen? But I think the memory really kind of solidifies our ideas and thoughts into this kind of planning process they want to go through. It really changed the outcomes.
Yeah, great. So I think we're ready to move on to the next activity. Do you want to say anything else about this before we move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay, cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to build our ideal neighborhood. And you can use similar objects or you can use completely different objects. But the same thing goes, you can be as creative as possible. You can use pens, paper clips, silverware, no, it doesn't matter what it is. And we're gonna build our ideal neighborhood.
Your ideal West Rancho Dominguez.
Yeah, exactly, Dominguez. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So any questions before we start that? Cool. And likewise, you can just send me a photo of what you've built and I can share it, or you can use your camera once you're done to share what you've built. And we will build something as well, and we'll film it while we're doing it. Okay. We'll take about 5 to 7 minutes to do that.
Sure. Okay, so I really love Magic Johnson Park. And then it's a really great space. It's a really great community asset. So I think you want to, how do you make the park? Answer. You have all you have a really beautiful lake here, and you have all these like Canadian geese, in the lake. So I thought, wow, you have like, well, either are going to be rabbits, these are actually going to be geese, but they're really they're rabbits, but think about them as being geese.
Canada geese.
Yeah, and then maybe how do we build, houses around that park? So how did that park become part of this community and kind of like this, kind of have a web of green space that, people can come to the park. Kids can cross Segundo Boulevard really easily, from the neighborhood adjacent to it. So it's really connected to.
So we've got connections.
Yeah, connections from different neighborhoods into the park.
So let's pretend these are like nice crosswalks.
Nice crosswalks.
Tons of them.
Yeah.
You can cross over into the park.
Yeah.
And then there's places for playing.
Yeah. There's a community center there.
You can dress up like a ghost.
Yeah. Halloween parties, Disneyland, some lights.
Maybe you could extend the park out into the street
Yeah.
so that one of the streets becomes part of the park. So that would be cool. So you could, because everyone's talking about, wishing that we could have streets that you could actually play in. So what if the park, the edges of the park expanded out over the streets themselves?
Fun architecture, big Disneyland. We had horses going through there.
Yeah. Some kind of gateway.
Yeah.
Cool. Looks cool. You want to take a picture of it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So it sounds like folks are sending in their photos. So I'm going to start pulling those up.
Did you get mine?
Yes. All right, so I'm going to pull up the first one and we will start sharing our ideal West Rancho Dominguez. So,
Oh, same thing.
let me share the screen. And could you push this out of the way so I can type? Thank you. All right, so this is Daria's, I believe. What is this and how does this represent your ideal West Rancho Dominguez?
That's part of Hyde Park in London. It looked pretty good. I'd like it back here.
Yeah,
What is it about this that
Hyde Park.
you like?
Open spaces, lots of trees, and no RVs parked everywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. Nice and clean. And it's very accessible from the city. You can walk across the street to it.
That's right.
Very pedestrian friendly.
London has lots of green space.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm gonna pull up the next one. Oh, so this is another one from Daria. So give me a sec. Let me.
Yeah, I just thought I'd send a picture of our old neighbors. We'd like them back too.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
that'll
Cool. So tell us how this represents your ideas for your ideal West Rancho Dominguez.
Well, when we were kids, this was still part of Dairy Valley, and everywhere around us, those were the neighbors, and they were much better neighbors than we have right now. So, I think it was a bad idea closing off all those farms. The dairy farms kept us all going, and made sure that we had easy access to all kinds of dairy products, and much of it, packaged quite well compared to what we have these days. So, and it also accounted for a lot of green space in the area, so, and jobs. So, yeah, bring them back.
Great.
Yep, nice. Yeah, in Montebello, they had some dairy farms left, and now just did too. So they had to make easy milk.
Yep. Like for some reason, the county thought it was better to surround us with or rezone us as industrial, heavy industry instead. But we were far better off when it was agricultural.
Yeah, more sustainable too, because you have less dry from farm to market.
That's right. We had family farms, and 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 dairies within a matter of a couple of blocks.
Great. That's awesome. Let's see.
Was.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I'm gonna share yours right now. Give me one sec.
Yeah,
Cool.
great.
All right. And so
That's what your ideal.
Yeah, so that rock with the keychain is still a playground. I guess that's Magic Johnson Recreation Area. Nice big wide green space. The staple removers represent Enterprise Park and Athens Park. And the books in the middle represent AC Bilbro Library. That's where I currently work. What we all have in common is that we're all public spaces where people in the neighborhood, spend their recreational time. It would be nice if there's some way to connect, all these public spaces together for a safe way for residents and community members to get to and from each of these locations. El Segundo Boulevard is a really heavily trafficked corridor with a lot of vehicles, so it's not too safe to cross the street near the entry points to a lot of these locations. So it would be nice if there might be some kind of safety mechanisms or crosswalks, maybe if there can be bike lanes or some kind of easement in traffic. So not to take away all the roads for everyone that drives through, but to create safer paths for people that might want to ride bicycle from Magic Johnson Park to Athens Park or the library to Enterprise Park.
great. Slow down. Awesome. Thanks, Jeffrey. Appreciate that. Those are great ideas. And then let's see, we have James. This is yours.
Yeah,
And let me share the screen. And let me just pull up the chat. So we kind of built this together.
Yeah,
So
so,
why don't you narrate? No.
so it's like I built Magic Johnson Park. I thought it's probably one of the best parks in LA County. It's so big and has a big lake and all the Canadian geese in there. And you know, how can you make the park the center of the community and really start to have, like, again, you know, easy crosswalks across Segundo Boulevard to get there, and kind of have the park extend out into the neighborhood, bring people in rather than people having to go to the park. So, you know, trees and nice architecture and lights, and you know, just really expand the pleasantness from the park into the community.
Yeah, we came up with the idea of, since everyone was talking about how they really missed being able to play it out in the street safely, what if we were able to expand the park out into the streets themselves in some way? So I put that there. Awesome. Yeah, cool. Let's see. So I think, Robert, you were gonna send us one, right? Let me see. I don't think I have that yet. No problem. If you didn't get a chance to send something,
Just
Robert.
sent it.
Oh, you did? Okay. Cool. Let me see. Just got it. Cool. Let me pull it up. Thank you. And all right, Robert, tell us what you're showing here.
So basically that is, for you those who are not familiar, that is called Destination Crenshaw. Basically, that is going to be a 1.3 mile community centerpiece in the heart of the Crenshaw area in Los Angeles. It's going to be able to attract tourists and local community. There's murals there, there's green sprays, there's art, there's murals, and me personally, because I cover East Rancho Dominguez, West Rancho Dominguez, and unincorporated Compton, I think it would have been nice to see if there's a way where we can plant something kind of like in the middle, where it covers East, West, and Compton, and that's something that can bring everyone together. Because although East looks a little different from West and unincorporated Compton, they all have very similar visions and concerns for what the community could look like. And I think a shared space that brings all three communities together would be ideal, so that people can be more acquainted in harmony, and people don't think it's the East Rancho has this and West Rancho has this. This is just like one centerpiece that all communities could come together and be proud of and embrace and utilize. There's like two more pictures. I'm sorry, it came out so small.
Oh yeah, okay, no problem. Let me see.
There.
Okay, yeah, I see. Let me just click here.
That's like kind of like the bird's eye view. You see how big that is? It's 2 stories. You got green space on top. On the first floor, there's like classrooms where you can learn about the history of Crenshaw, where it's going. So you can kind of get like a bird's eye view of the history, a little bit of urban planning, a little bit of eco-friendly. And then up top, you have more trees and you have play areas for children. There's murals at the bottom where you enter. So it's going to be a very fun space.
That's great, yeah. And then there's a third one I'll pull up.
Yeah, there's that right there. That's the area where people can come and congregate and kids can play. Open space.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. So with what people built and what people shared, what were some of the recurring themes that tied all these together? And again, I've done the same thing, just paraphrased everything in the chat box, everything that people shared with us.
Well, I think you covered quite a lot of it. I think, you know, I look at those images and it's like, they're lovely. Where are all the RVs and the garbage? Because that's what we around So
Okay, so maybe one of the
Cleaner.
recurring themes could be cleanliness,
Beautification.
beauty. It's like greenery. People wrote.
More nature and art. Traffic.
I saw a recurring theme of connection in different ways. So like physically
Mentally, socially,
and yeah, mentally
socially.
and socially. And also a connection with nature and the land. Through the idea of bringing back farming.
Sustainability.
Access to local resources, good. Safety and comfort were part of what people said as well. So like with Jeffries, this idea of being able to be connected to all these other places so you can go from one place to the next more easily, but also safely and comfortably. You don't have to worry about traffic and getting hit by a car.
But you see how our child memories really kind of weave into our adult aspirations.
Mm-hmm. Great. Any other recurring themes that people see amongst all these cool ideas and models that people built? Just checking to see if I missed anything. Intentional architecture, urban design. Yeah. So some very intentional, interventions in the urban environment. Yeah, good. Sorry, something is this another? Yeah.
What is that?
These are
Oh yeah,
RVs. Yeah,
so this is what people don't want.
Yeah, so Daria sent a picture of RV. So this is what she doesn't want. So
I like that.
yeah. So I think that goes back to these recurring themes of cleanliness and safety and accessibility and feeling like the streets and sidewalks are connected and people can move about safely.
Yeah,
Cool.
the whole idea that people want to live in these kind of green spaces, healthy spaces, and nurturing spaces, as opposed to more asphalt, more cars, more traffic, more parking. Nobody wanted big box developments or bigger parking lots, but they wanted more green space.
I'll put this in as for the records of our RVs from Daria.
Show a picture.
Yes, I can share that. And then we can move on. I'm just going to share this picture that Daria sent. Daria, would you like to comment? Did you want to add anything to this?
Well, yeah, I picked a particularly nice one actually, because I have way worse than that. And as we're transitioning into the actual subject matter, it's kind of like, how are we going to move forward? Because it's really nice to keep talking about green space and how pretty things should be, because that's what they used to look like. But now this is what it looks like. So yeah, I think the community is concerned with how are we going to get to all that lovely green space from this mess. You know, what is the county going to do to help us move beyond this before we even talk about bike lanes and green space? Because we don't have anything like that right now. There's no place to put bike lanes. There's no place to put nice walking paths. It's just garbage. Straight down Avalon, Broadway, Main Street, Redondo Beach Boulevard. It's a nightmare. So when we take this back to our community and we say, oh, look what the county wants to do, everybody kind of laughs because it sounds really nice. But the problem is we see this crap every day, and I'm not telling, and like I said, these are actually pretty neat. I don't know why they're parked in front of somebody's business, but a block down, there is nothing but garbage in the median along the sidewalk. It is filthy and disgusting. So, you know, this is all very lovely, but it means nothing to the people in these neighborhoods because we know the reality right now, and it's that. So where are we going from here?
Yeah, so just a note on that, you know, the reason why we do this activity is because it does give us an opportunity to step aside and step away from our everyday reality and be expansive with our thinking and be creative. And so that's why we do that. That's why we work with our hands. So it's not that we don't want to acknowledge what the existing problems are. It's just that we want to create a space. And you guys did this really well. And we came up with all these creative ideas. And these are also the kinds of ideas that we want to put into this plan moving forward. So yeah, so I totally hear you. But then also at the same time, I'm really grateful for the fact that everyone today built creative ideas, because this is how we get these kinds of ideas and these solutions. In part is from stepping away from our day-to-day reality, just being like, okay, in our ideal worlds, what would we want? And, you know, unfettered by all the constraints of reality. That's partly why we do this.
Yeah, and nobody said they wanted more RV parks.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing too with this exercise, before we move on, so we're kind of running out of time with this portion of it, but you know, the recurring themes that we pull out of these are core values that can guide the planning process from here on out. These are your core values. These are the kinds of things that you want to see shape your community. And now we know what these core values are, in addition to all the different creative ideas that you guys came up with. And those really have value. So knowing about the problems, that has value, but tapping into everyone's creative ideas tonight has innumerable value to us, because that's the portion a lot of times that we don't get to hear. Like, we really want to know what your creative ideas are.
Yeah, and also the rich experiences that you bring to the table here. You know, Hyde Park, cows, Disneyland. They're just a lot of experiences that we can pull from, you know, and we can understand what kind of places that we need to create in the future. So it gives us a lot of leeway to help this planet have a lot more solutions, you know, than just you know, just simple ones, but more kind of visionary ones. Yeah, so we could figure out, maybe we could figure out how to clean up the RVs, but then what's the bigger solution here? You know, more agricultural land, more whatever you want, whatever you talk about, but we need to see the kind of solution to we have. Let's think expansively about what it might look like, rather than just the here and now.
Yeah, good. So thanks everyone for participating. This was great. I really appreciate the people built models and shared their creative ideas with us. It was really fun.
Thank you for that. And just to echo John's sentiments, thank you so much for participating. So this is actually a perfect opportunity to segue into the open discussion and just hearing about your thoughts or anything you want to share about your community. So we know you don't want to see RVs. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I'll take it for West Rancho Dominguez because I don't think there's anybody else representing us. So, yeah, we have a few other particular areas. I mean, one of the problems that we probably can't get beyond is the fact that Rosecrans is one of our major intersections here. And the diesel fumes and soot that come off of Rosecrans into these neighborhoods is really bad. You know, that's really nothing that the county can remedy, I'm afraid, because, but as far as our own neighborhood, we've had a particular problem because of really bad planning. As far as putting lights far too close to each other, we've been trying to deal with the traffic department about that because it allows for diesel traffic and cars to just sit there next to our neighborhood for 3 to 5 minutes sometimes because two lights are only a few feet away from each other. So, again, we keep talking about green space and stuff, but it's like this, just going out to our backyard and trying to breathe, you don't know what you're breathing in because Rosecrans is only a few feet away. And, the air is absolutely filthy here. Another problem we have is on Compton Boulevard in front of St. Albert the Great. There is a trucking company that moved in there about a year and a half ago, I guess. And luckily for them, they've grown in the middle of a pandemic. However, now there is probably 10 times the amount of diesel traffic on that tiny street, and they're blocking all the lanes sometimes. I just tried to come home about an hour and a half ago and had to swerve between, I'm going to say about 8 16-wheelers that are parked in both lanes, but they only left a small amount of space for the cars to get through. Meanwhile, it's on either side, this is down the middle of two schools. So you've got an elementary school on one side and a middle school on the other, and these kids have to breathe this junk all day long now. And the diesel rigs are parked right in front of their schools. Because one of the schools, a middle school, used to be my high school. So, if you want to talk about urban decay, all you have to do is roll around this neighborhood and take photos. It's really a nightmare. These, plans of, putting in green space, I'm not sure where you're going to do it now, but, it's desperately needed in this area because the amount of industrial traffic in this area is really, really difficult on the neighborhoods, particularly these kids who have to deal with this all day long. But as residents, we see this constantly, and this all sounds really nice, but we just don't see where it's going at this point. So, we'd like to see concrete evidence that something is going to be done to make sure that this neighborhood can even be a facet of what it was when we were small children here, 5 decades ago. So, that's really what we'd like to hear about. It's like, what is the county going to do to help us?
Thank you so much for your feedback. And sorry, a quick question. You mentioned a comment about stoplights. These are the traffic lights, right?
Yeah, they're two
Okay,
traffic
they're two
lights that are just a matter of a couple of feet from each other. I'm sorry, what? So it's to, it wasn't really based on speed. What happened is that Stanford Avenue, which is the next major street east of Avalon, had a light. And then McKinley, which is only a few feet away from that east, had no light. And then UPS built a huge center right down McKinley. So they wanted their trucks, instead of having to go down to Avalon, they wanted the trucks to come out onto Rosecrans. Well, the only safe way to do it was to put another light, but we're talking about two lights that are only a matter of maybe 25 feet from each other. So the lights do not sync up. So cars stop and then they stop again. And all of that diesel traffic from the UPS trucks, the other trucks down there, and the cars going this way, and especially going east in the evening, it's really heavy traffic. So anytime you are outside, you can smell it. And all you got to do is run your finger across the rail. I don't care how often you clean out there. If I clean my mailbox, I can come out the next day and it's covered in that soot. So again, Roy Campanella Park is only about a block further down. You can have all the recreation you want there, but you're also breathing in heavy carbon and all kinds of fumes. So again, this is a major problem for this area. We've been overburdened with this industry. So now the county needs to do something to clean it up.
Yeah, well, hopefully I know you mentioned, your frustration with plans and just feeling like it gets developed, but then there's no implementation. So that's really our goal with this plan, is to make sure that it's implemented. And one of our preliminary goals that I shared earlier in the presentation was to reverse these negative environmental impacts. So that's definitely being considered in this analysis. So thank you for that. That's really helpful. Jeffrey, I see you're muted. Is there anything you'd like to share? Or anyone else? Okay, I don't see any more hands raised. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next activity. So the next activity is more related to what you actually like from your community. So we have a list of questions here that, you know, can just prompt your thinking, but really just anything else that isn't listed in here, you can feel free to share. So landmarks that you show your visitors, festivals and parties that you go to, favorite places to eat, places you go to listen to music, any local parks you like, businesses or special places that you hang out at. So just to give you a little bit of background on the map you're seeing there, this was identified as an area of opportunity through previous planning efforts. And so really, we just, I guess, want to supplement this map with your local knowledge and just hear about any places that are special to you in your community. You can also email us your thoughts afterwards if you don't want to unmute, or if you can also use the chat box, whatever you'd like. And so in the chat right now, Gaurav just input the project's email. So that's metroareaplan@planning.lacounty.gov. Oh, sorry, wrong one. So planning.lacounty.gov/metroareaplan. So I don't see any hands raised, so I'm going to go ahead and move on, but please feel free to email us your thoughts. And then we also just input the community survey. So on this slide here, we have our round 1 virtual workshop schedule. We have upcoming meetings for the other neighborhoods that are part of the metro area plan. And our next round of workshops will begin in the spring of 2022. Again, you can visit the website to view past recordings, and please share with your neighbors. You can share the website, you can share the survey. They can help us by providing their input and feedback through either the community survey, or they can also email us, and we'll provide that email shortly. They can send questions or feedback if they've watched the recordings and want to participate afterward by emailing us. And the survey is also a really great way to get involved. And Daria, I'm seeing your note about feeling embarrassed by showing your neighborhood by some of the devastations due to heavy industry and homeless people. So thank you for sharing that. We're gonna make a note of your comment. Okay, so just before we do the exit poll, I want to turn it over to county staff so they can say a brief hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again. I just want to say thanks for joining us tonight out of your busy schedule. It's challenging to connect with community members during this unusual time. We're still not fully out of the pandemic, but I'm glad that at least with the technology here, we are able to hear your thoughts and then also see some of your creative I guess, ideas when you show us your models and all that. Again, I think we had a slide earlier to show the project's website, or if Gaurav, you would like to put in the chat box again, the project website, as well as the email address for this project, so that if community members, if you have any additional thoughts or ideas, feel free to email us. And yeah, I just want to say thank you again. Really appreciate you letting us know your ideas. And this project is a great opportunity to step back to kind of what we heard earlier, step away from sort of the existing condition and the reality, and just like, what are the things we would like to see in the community. And then from there on, hopefully we'll be able to come up with some creative solution. Yeah, so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And the project's email, website, and community survey have been pasted again into the chat if anyone didn't get a chance to catch it earlier. So again, thank you all for making the time to be here tonight. As Tina mentioned, this input is really valuable to us. And so we have a quick exit survey if you can please participate in, we'd really appreciate it. You should see the survey on your screen now. Thank you everyone for participating. Have a good evening.